Hello, this is an impromptu live, so I'm not expecting really a whole lot of people to show up, but I just had some thoughts and things I wanted to share. And I'm at the beach, so let's just take a look. And hopefully, someone can show up and let me know if they can hear me. But if not, it's fine. I can just erase this later. So, Charlie Kirk and the rise of the Christian Reich, the rise of Christian nationalism. Highly concerning. Highly concerning. Hoping you can hear me. Thanks, Red Metal. Appreciate you. So, yeah, highly concerning this, the way this is going, Um, whenever one of these events happens, I initially always get sucked into the emotion of it. It's so hard to remain detached from the matrix. It really is. Even when you think you are, it's like every time they get me, every time they get me. And then, of course, afterwards, I start looking at things very skeptically and start seeing signs and understand, okay. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, Sorry, I'm just looking at some of these kids over here swimming on the beach, and there's no lifeguard, and it just makes me a little worried because the undertow is pretty fucking strong. But their parents are with them, so that's Anyway, if you see me running, that's why. I'm just keeping an eye. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this. I like what Charlie Kirk was doing. I didn't know much about him before this happened, but I've seen a lot of his talks, and I think at the heart of what he was doing, yes, he was promoting um, America, and that's considered nationalism. So that's what he was promoting. That is a core opposite value of people on the left who want open borders and diversity. It's just completely different. So people are always going to hate that view, and they always have. But lately, things are much more divided. Things are much more divided, and they're coming to a head. And if you look throughout history, it just seems like this shit keeps happening. It rises up, it goes down, it rises up, it goes down. And I think right now, the concern for the people in charge is that all of this stuff is so easily exposed as a farce so quickly. And so, more and more people are awake to what it is, and they have less and less control. And then because of technology and things. And then on top of it, the climate. There is a fucking climate problem. Nobody talks about it. And you don't, it's so here's the issue with the climate, okay? There's a lot of bad shit happening in the world's climate department. Like, the whole theory about the earth and shit, they've switched now to the catastrophism, they call it, that model, which is the whole extinction model, the whole polar shift model. Okay. So, would they say dinosaurs got killed by like the ice age? No, dinosaurs got killed by the fucking polar shift. Okay. If they even ever existed, I don't fucking know. But I'm just saying the world is it's always wobbly on its axis. And we're now told, there's a North and South Pole that are stationary, and then there's North and South Pole that move because it's like a magnet. And if you think of a magnet, that's why the Earth is always wobbling, essentially, because there's these two things kind of balancing each other. And is dependent on the geomagnetic force that Earth has, that's tied into the moon and other planets, right? So all these things kind of do a dance together. They all kind of do this dance, and Earth is part of the dance, right? And so, regardless of the Industrial Revolution, regardless of population, the Earth was going to do this dance, okay? But what the evildoers or whoever the fucking people are that are in control, the alien overlords, whatever, what they have done is, yet again taken an issue that anyone can just make a common sense judgment about and turned it into a political dichotomy. So people argue over it and say climate change isn't real, blah, blah, blah. Or versus the Greta Thunberg who like destroyed a generation of kids, telling them you're going to die in 10 years because your parents fucked up the world. That's a radicalization right there of a bunch of kids. Okay. Thunberg. So whatever the fuck. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is that you've got these two dichotomies, and so nobody actually looks at what's happening except for people like me and maybe you who actually look in the gray zone and look in the middle and say, well, yeah, there's definitely a fucking problem with the climate, that's for sure. You know, we see these birds just in packs dying for no reason. Well, there's a reason. It's because they're fucked up with their fucking instincts, because the polar shift is occurring. We're getting ready to have a polar flip. So this is what happens. A lot of species start to die out because they depend on the Earth's magnetic field and where they're at to direct where they sail. When I was a kid, the birds always flew south for the winter. Birds have been doing that shit for a few years, at least. They don't do that anymore. They don't go south in the winter. They hang out, you know. So I mean, we know that these animals are getting lost. They're ending up in places that they shouldn't be. That the whales are beaching and dying because of the windmill. Sure, but it's also because of the polar shift. They don't want to talk about it. I'm going to tell you why they don't want to talk about it, because it's fucking terrifying. Because the polar shift is probably going to happen, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. You know, the continents will shift, tsunamis, all this stuff. You know, you think I sound crazy? It's okay. You don't have to believe me, but you should do some research on it. Look into it. There are physicists that believe this shit. There are whole channels like Suspicious Observers that have fought with Ivy League and NASA and everybody else. And now everybody's turning around and saying, yes, this is what's happening. The elites know this is happening. That's why they're building bunkers in certain areas, because you can predict the most likely areas that will survive after this giant fucking polar shift. Okay. There are some areas that always survive. Guess what? Africa is a great place to be during this polar shift. But who wants to move to Africa? I don't want to move to Africa. They'll fucking kill me. Are you kidding? I don't think they like most white people. And the truth is, that's fine. But like, also, there's a lot of violence, and I don't know if I don't know, but they're gonna live. They're gonna survive. You know. There's other places in the United States that are more likely, places with high elevation, things like that. Um, I'm just saying, the elites know all this. They're not going to tell you, because even though you probably have 12 years to plan and figure out what you want to do, um, that's a huge fucking, they don't want to tell people this. No, am I saying this is definitely happening? No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just saying that something is happening to the world. Something is happening to the climate. We know the ocean, the temperatures are rising, the fish are dying, the food is poisoned. We know they're spraying shit in the sky. You know they are, because they make laws against it in Florida. So it's definitely happening. It's not conspiracy. we I don't know if they announced today that vaccines cause autism, but that's where it's going. People are going to lose their fucking minds when this comes out. Those of us who have known all along, have been talking about it and been called crazy, like Jenny McCarthy or whoever the fuck else. So I don't I genuinely don't care if someone thinks I'm nuts or whatever. I know what I feel, I know what I believe, and I'm really just saying this to open up a discussion. If other people think this way, if they see what I see, are they concerned? What are they thinking about doing? I mean, I know there are full-blown communities like already forming. There's one in Colorado. They built a full-blown community. They make sure they pick it near a water source. They make sure they pick it near land that's fertile. People are already doing this shit based on all different kinds of religions and creeds and whatever. People are already learning how to live on their own outside of the matrix. And, I think those of us who want to stay free have to start looking at shit like that, because the world is getting more and more tyrannical, and authoritarian. And that's why I titled this, uh, you know, that's why I titled it, sorry, I'm going to look at the comments in a second, but that's why I titled it, Charlie Kirk and the Rise of the Christian Right. Because look, I was raised in the Christian faith. I was raised in a Ukrainian Orthodox church. Now you know my heritage, some of it anyway. But regardless, I, sorry guys, sorry. Let me put my do not disturb on my phone. It's so annoying. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Hopefully there. Um, anyway, Ukrainian Orthodox, I've talked a little bit about this before. I left my priest, but and in the Orthodox Christianity, they allow the priest to marry. So we don't have that rampant pedophilia going on in that church as much as in Catholicism. That's where they made a mistake there. But anyway, um, point being is that I love my priest, and I love the hymns I learned, and all those things and the culture of it. But as I got older, I just kind of fell apart from it and stuff. And you start questioning things, looking at different reasons and things, and you run into the whole like, is Jesus historical? I still believe he's historical based on this matrix anyway. He seems to be very historical. He's tied into the three main religions in this matrix, right? He's designed to give us hope. People say it's hopium, whatever you want to call it. But the truth is, without some type of religion, and I don't mean, you know, any type of orthodoxy, but without some type of religion that's just teaching basic morals like virtue for women, and having respect for your parents, and men and women, waiting until they marry and marrying younger. I mean, that's part of the issue. When you start having sex at a younger age as a generation, everybody's just fucking around, free love. There's no reason to get married. Of course, it's just one of many reasons why kids don't get married. And it just destroys the whole thing. And I get it. I get why, like, okay, cool, just let them do what they want to do, free love or whatever. But in this society, that's why it's falling apart. The family unit fell apart. All these other things fall apart. And in retrospect, in hindsight, I look back and I say, shit, well, I've known forever feminism sucks. I'm an anti-feminist. Um, I've always really just been interested in learning whatever I can about other cultures and people. I love to travel. I've traveled quite a bit to other countries. And, I've never bought into like most of these concepts, that they push on us from birth. Um, I've always been the rebel, always questioning, always pushing, always doing that. And And so you just wonder, you know. The one thing I know, though, the one thing I know is that this isn't like our home. Like, this isn't the prime place. Like, this is some kind of copy of the place. Like, because we know now, they've proven our consciousness is not inside of our bodies, it's outside of our bodies, guys. They've proven this. Scientific research has now proven this. Okay. And so, and some of you already know that plants and trees and things actually have consciousness as well. And, some of you may be familiar with the rice experiment. I did my own rice experiment where you put rice in separate jars and you yell at it. There's a whole process, but basically one jar has the bad rice and one jar has the good rice. And the one jar you praise and you say how good the rice is and also the shit. The other jar you talk shit about it, tell them, they're psycho and whatever. And then you see over time the jar that you're talking shit to starts to develop this really icky black fungally shit. But the jar that you're saying nice things to of rice, it starts to develop, mine started to develop these like pink crystals. It was beautiful. It may have been fungus, but it was beautiful. And each jar contained the exact same thing. It's called the Rice experiment. There's the Japanese guy who did it, and you could do it yourself. But he also talks about plants and how he started talking to his plants, and the plants started talking back to him. And this is a Japanese physicist, okay? Again, you could think I'm crazy because I believe him, but I read him. I read the book. The guy's brilliant. They don't talk about this shit. They don't want people to know that everything around us is alive and has a consciousness. I mean, so you just have to think about it a little differently. And life just becomes so much more fun and interesting. They're putting us in a really bad narrative right now, guys. And I do think for some people in the collective, it's heading for maybe some dark time in terms of like authoritarian rule. He's becoming exactly what everyone's been screaming that he is, right? And other people have been saying that he's not. They've been saying he's Hitler. They've been saying he's a fascist. They've been saying he's a dictator and shit, right? Well, a lot of people, including me, were like, what do you mean? I don't see that. What are you talking about? And I'm not a Trump supporter at all. But I was just like, I think they're getting a little hyperbolic here. Okay. But now we see those people shouting those things. Maybe they just had better discernment the whole time. Because if you look at the beautiful big bill bullshit that Trump is pushing, and you look at the speech laws, and you go to a website called futuretimeline.net, which is fucking amazing. And if you've never gone there, you definitely should. You're going to get stuck in there for hours in a rabbit hole. Look at futuretimeline.net and look at what all of these scientists, researchers, and sociologists and AI is predicting is going to happen this year in our country and all other countries. And in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years, this fucking website is wild. I forgot about it. Every once in a while, I remember some crazy website that I used to love. And this came up in my memories the other day. I used to be on this thing all the time. It's called futuretimeline.net. And go check it out. I'm not saying you have to believe everything in there, but I am saying like a lot of the shit they talk about is true. I found that website in 2016, and I remember that's one of the ones that talked about the population decrease that was going to occur. And then they went into the Deacon report, and Deacon, got pushed back, and people were freaking out saying, why are all these Americans going to die in 2025? And you're a psyop. And it's like, no, actually, we're not. We're actually ex-CIA, ex-government employees, ex-contractors. We're scientists. We study this shit, and we're predicting a major fucking population decrease and a major decrease in a gross domestic product in the United States of America by 2025. Okay, that was their prediction. Now, their prediction, you know, was based on, they said all their models, but their main prediction that this would happen is because of immigration. It's fucking crazy, but that's what they said. And they said they've been following this pattern for decades. And I know when I took statistics in college in 1988, my statistics professor said that by the year 2030, white people would be a minority in the United States of America. I'll never forget that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's really interesting. And she used to rail against the Federal Reserve. She hated Alan Greenspan. I learned so much from her. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is it's been in the works. But, part of it is people want to move to America. This is the last bastion of hope and freedom anywhere, guys. And we're even getting our free speech clamped down on. They're using the Charlie Kirk assassination, okay, to bring up speech laws, freedom of speech on both sides. They're going to play us, but they're trying to play not me, them, both against the middle. We're outside of this, guys. If you're here, you are outside of the matrix. You understand. It's not black, white, Republican, Democrat, Christian, Jew, Muslim, whatever. You know what I mean? That's not what it is. This is about bad or evil and good and just understanding, right? Don't get too caught up in it. We're immortal. And we are capable of so much more than they ever want us to know. And I just feel it. If you feel that, then you're in the right place talking here with me, because it's the truth. And because the veil is thinning, these geomagnetic forces are getting thinner. It's easier to get some vibrational things, and it's incredible some of the things I've been experiencing lately, and I'm sure many of you have been too. So I'm just saying, look, if you're watching a movie and the way Charlie Kirk got shot, it made me cry. It made me scared. It made me want to throw up. And for the past few days, I've been very much into all the things about it. And then you know what happened with Charlie Kirk? They came out with this theory of the bullet. And that's when I'm like, really, motherfuckers? Really? Is this another one? Is this what we're doing? Because here's the thing. I was like, okay, this is all checking out. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna get up and walk up here. You guys can see the ocean. Whoops. So yeah, I want to say this, okay? This is what started to piss me off, okay? This is what started to piss me off, all right? I watched the I watched the memorial service, right? And it was beautiful. But a couple things that I saw that I thought was really strange. One of them was, where the fuck were Charlie Kirk's parents? Okay? Who are these people? Who are they? Well, if you're like me, you looked. Because I'm like, okay, if Charlie Kirk, because so far everything seems so authentic. It's like, the reactions people are having. Candace Owens is like freaking going nuclear. I would love to know Candace Owens' uh, sign. I want to know what her astrology sign is. But anyway, she's going full scorched earth. Um, People genuinely looked upset, as opposed to some other people we've seen in national tragedies who like laugh or do some kind of acting technique before they get before the camera. The thing in the Charlie Kirk that made it very real and visceral was that people had these genuine, reactions. And I was like, okay, like actors aren't this good, whatever, right? And I felt it, right? But here's my problem. Now I'm like, where are his parents, right? So, yeah, where are his parents? Well, if he has parents and it's all on the up and up and actually organic what happened, of course we're going to see them. Of course, they're going to want to talk about their son. I mean, Christ's sake, Charlie Kirk is being made into like a national martyr, a Christian martyr. He'll probably be made into some kind of saint at some point. Don't you think his parents who raised him would want to say something at this memorial in front of millions of people, like worldwide? Like, it's blowing my mind. Hold on one second. I just want to read some of the comments before I go on with this. Tell me if I'm off base here. Agreed, Lauren. Yeah, the roof guy doesn't make any sense. And I agree. Charlie Kirk definitely was the main reason. And this I had no idea either. Look, when Trump admits that Charlie Kirk is like the main reason they captured the youth vote, when Trump says that, you know it's true, because Donald Trump gives no one credit unless they deserve it. Okay. And he will always take credit for everything he can. That's just the way he is. He's a bombastic, narcissistic man. Okay. So whatever. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, but I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk. Like I said, I knew he was part of the alt right. I knew that crowd. I remember, I'm blanking on some of their names, but like Cassandra Fairbanks was in that crowd, and Mike Cernovich was in that crowd, and they were the guys that would do the OK sign and shit like that, and everyone was like, "That's a racist sign." I forget why. You guys probably know in the chat, and they were like, no, it's not racist. And then that was the beginning of the culture wars in 2016, if you all remember. So yeah, like I had heard of him based on that, and so I was just kind of like, whatever, whatever. But when I saw him get shot, like I didn't care what I thought of him, even if he was a racist, it made me want to throw up. Even if uh like some, I don't know, Farrakhan was sitting there preaching on like some kind of hatred for people, and he got shot, it would make me upset. I still want to hear what Farrakhan has to say. Okay, so like that was my visceral reaction. And I honestly probably wouldn't have looked much more into it except for the overwhelming amount of people mocking his death on social media. And that's what I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, that's a real reaction. And that's why Jason from Archaic says it doesn't matter if you believe what happened to Charlie Kirk is real or not. Okay. It doesn't matter if you or I believe it. The effects of his this on the world is what's real. Okay, the effect of it on the world is what's real, right? And so that's what I'm looking at here. I don't want to get sucked up into the rapture of Christian revival and this and that. That's not what's going to happen to me. That's not what I think is like, that's not where I'm going. And it's nothing against Christians or anything like that. But what I'm saying is I would just tell people to be careful, because when Christians or any religion becomes more empowered in the state, it always becomes more authoritarian. They have all sorts of rules that they want to impose, like only marriage between men and women, no sex before marriage. And you know, everyone was right about Trump with the abortion too. He's going to keep pushing and pushing. And he's asking doctors now to make lists of women they've given abortions to. I mean, this is not good. That's not good. Um, and while I agree that, you know, people, it's a whole other issue. I don't want to get into the abortion issue. I honestly think that there should be no laws about abortion. That's my personal opinion. I think, I think throughout the centuries, women have been able to take care of whatever they need to take care of. And men really weren't a part of that other than, you know, after the baby's born. Of course, the father has to be there. But women helped each other give birth. They helped each other with their menstrual cramps. And they probably helped each other with maybe an unwanted pregnancy that they did. Wink, wink, drink this little brew I made up from the garden, darling. The men don't know. Of course they did. Come on. Is that immoral? I don't know. I mean, look, there's lots of different reasons why a woman might choose to do that. I'm just saying that's between her and God, or her and her man, and her and her man and God, not the government. Government needs to get the fuck out of it. So go ahead. Have doctors fucking keep some list, you dumbasses. Women, don't get discouraged by that. Don't think women are going to be dying in the streets and back alleys. No, not this time. Not this time. There are people who know how to do things very safely. The government, it needs to stay the fuck out of it, okay? But Hey guys. Hey guys. Can you hear me? You guys still there? Nope. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you guys are there, let me know. Um, so wait, let me just close this because it's hard to. Okay. Of course, it's like, whoops. Okay, here I am. I'm gonna show the comments on the stage. Yeah. All right. So hopefully you guys are there. Hi. All right. Whoop. Anybody there? Hi guys. Can you hear me? If anyone's there, let me know. All right, I'm gonna end this because I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. It's like it looks like there are some people in the chat, but it looks like there's like 7 people watching, but nobody's really saying that they hear me. So I'm not sure if they're there. You know, I'm gonna just drive, okay? I'm gonna drive. Whoops. Oh my God. Hey guys. Thanks, Bubbly. Thank you. Okay. All right, thanks. Holy shit. Like what a fucking thing. I was up at the beach and then my phone just died. And my phone will not hold a charge and it's new, so it's really irritating the fuck out of me. And I'm like, oh God, they probably just thought I got kidnapped or something crazy. But no, it was nothing dramatic. My phone just died. But anyway, I was going on and on about Charlie Kirk because I just want, like I said, unfortunately, this happens every time one of these events happens now. I'm highly critical of it because I had an experience where I believed something wholeheartedly and it wasn't true. I found proof that it wasn't true and it really messed me up. So now every time one of these events happens, I always trust it, but then I become skeptical. So the things that are weird about Charlie Kirk, I still have to say them. It doesn't mean I don't think what he did, it doesn't deserve praise or whatever, right? But here's the thing. Where are his parents? Okay. Where are Charlie Kirk's parents? If Charlie Kirk, like I said, if Charlie Kirk was someone who, was like, did all these great things and he was meeting Donald Trump and blah 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 blah. Where are his parents? Like, why were they not at his memorial? Tell me. I can't. I always try to see the other side. I really do, but in this one, I can't. I can't because it's like he's going to be canonized probably by the Catholic Church. I mean, he's probably going to be a saint or some type of Christian martyr. And his parents aren't there when millions of people are watching to say something about their son and about his faith. Were his parents not? I don't understand. And here's the other thing about it, okay? That bothers me, okay? Um, some people say he has a sister, and some people say he doesn't. I did see a picture of him, one picture I found with his family. And, it turns out that his dad is an architect and apparently helped build like some of the Trump towers in Atlantic City and New York, which means his dad has been friends with Trump for a very long time, like back before Trump went bankrupt, long time. Charlie Kirk's dad is that good friends. He's got to be. If he built in Atlantic City and, after the bankruptcy, he's very entrenched in that stuff. Okay. It's just like, and, we all know Donald Trump is a diehard Zionist, and, we know who funded his campaigns, and we know his stance on Israel, and more importantly, Benjamin Netanyahu. We know these things, right? And so we know what Charlie Kirk was saying about Israel right up until a few days before or a week before he died, right? And then I find out Kirk, Kirk, also means Christian. And I was thinking about the Kirkers, the Christ Church. Kirker. So it's Charlie Kirk. And it's like they were doing a lot of Bible talk and stuff at the memorial, which is appropriate. That's his religion and everything. But they likened him not to Christ, which I was thankful for, because that would have really got me nervous if they likened him to Jesus Christ. But they likened him to the apostle Stephen, I think, who was killed for speaking the truth. So, at least some type of Christ affinity figure, And again, I'm all for Christianity and all of the beliefs and stuff, but